Jason Miller, a hard-working farm boy, was expelled from Westbridge Academy just for being who he was, humiliated and broken. He thought his future was over, but when a billionaire, Samuel Kingston, steps into his life with a helicopter and a bold mission, everything changes. With one powerful man on his side, Jason's chance at redemption comes crashing into the heart of the school that kicked him out. What happens when the underdog gets a second chance? Watch as Jason proves his worth, challenges everything he's been told, and discovers a future that no one ever saw coming. Jason's backpack slammed into the ground with a sickening thud. But oh, the agony in his chest cut so much deeper. Could it really be true? Expelled, just for being a farmer's son? Principal Carter's icy words haunted him, looping in his mind like a cruel taunt. This school is for respectable families. You don't belong here. Fighting back a flood of tears, Jason trudged home, his heart heavy with dread. How could he face his parents with this shame? Yet, the very next day, a billionaire's helicopter roared over Westbridge Academy, and every student and teacher froze, jaws dropping in disbelief. Jason clutched his backpack so tightly outside the principal's office. His knuckles ached, his heart hammering like it might burst. Never in his life had he felt so utterly humiliated. Principal Carter's cold, piercing stare sliced through him, shrinking him to nothing. "You don't belong in this school, Jason," the man sneered, his voice oozing contempt. "This place is for students with real potential, from respectable families, not some farm boy." Those words hit like a sucker punch, knocking the wind out of him. How could they be so cruel? He'd always known he stood apart from the other kids at Westbridge Academy. They rolled up in sleek, shiny cars, draped in designer labels, while Jason shuffled in with worn-out sneakers, the faint scent of fresh tilled soil clinging to him from early mornings working the fields with his dad. But to be kicked out just for that? Unthinkable. He balled his fists, knuckles whitening, his voice trembling with defiance. "I work just as hard as anyone here. I earned my spot with my grades." Principal Carter's smirk was pure venom. "Grades? Ha! They're not enough. We've got a reputation to uphold. And you, well, you drag it through the mud." The office door flew open, and two burly security guards stormed in. Jason's stomach twisted. Oh no, was this really happening? "Escort him out," Carter barked. The guards seized his arms, dragging him toward the exit as hallway students gawked. Whispers buzzed, some kids snickered, and there was Mason, the richest kid in school, lounging against the lockers with a smug, well, farm boy, guess you got what was coming." Jason's jaw clenched so tight it hurt, but he refused to let them see him crack. Not today, not ever. When he finally reached home, his parents were waiting on the porch, his mom's eyes brimming with worry, his dad's face etched with a grim frown. They expelled me," Jason choked out, his throat so tight he could barely speak. His mother gasped, her hands flying to her mouth, while his father let out a heavy sigh, pulling him into a fierce hug. "We'll figure this out, son," he said, but the waver in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. That night, Jason lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, a fire of anger and shame raging inside. He'd done nothing wrong. Why was he tossed aside like garbage? Oh, if only someone powerful would stand up for him, someone who could make them see he was worth something. The next morning, just as Westbridge Academy was about to start classes, a thunderous roar shattered the sky. Students poured outside, shielding their eyes from the blinding sun, as a massive black helicopter swooped down onto the school's front lawn. Its blades whipped up ferocious gusts, sending dust and chaos through the crowd. Teachers swapped baffled looks, What in the world was going on? Principal Carter stormed out, his face crimson with fury. What is the meaning of this madness? He bellowed. Then, the helicopter doors swung open, and the entire school fell deathly silent. Can you imagine that? Everyone stood frozen, the helicopter's blades churning waves of wind and dust, tossing hair and clothes into a frenzy. Some kids whispered, others fumbled for their phones, frantically recording the unbelievable scene. Westbridge was elite, sure, but a billionaire's helicopter landing on their lawn? Unheard of. Carter's face twisted with rage as he charged forward, his voice straining over the deafening noise. Who authorized this? Who do you think you are? He roared, desperate to cling to control, but no one cared about him anymore. Every eye was glued to the helicopter door as it creaked open, slow and dramatic. Out stepped a man whose presence hit like a lightning bolt tall, commanding, in a razor-sharp dark suit, his shoes gleaming like mirrors. His sunglasses caught the stunned faces of the crowd, reflecting their shock. Two more men in crisp suits followed, their faces stone cold. But it was the insignia on the helicopter that sent gasps rippling through the masses. Kingston Enterprises. Everyone knew that name. It was the biggest agricultural empire in the country. A titan of food production and land development. Could it really be him? The man before them was none other than Samuel Kingston, a billionaire whose influence could move mountains. Principal Carter's bravado crumbled, a nervous twitch in his eyes as he adjusted his tie and forced a smile. "Mr. Kingston," he stammered, his voice dripping with fake warmth. "This is quite unexpected. How can I assist you?" Samuel Kingston didn't answer right away. He peeled off his sunglasses, his sharp gaze sweeping the crowd like a hawk before locking on Carter. "I'm here for Jason Miller," he declared, his voice steady, powerful, undeniable. Gasps erupted from the students. Jason? The farm boy they'd mocked just yesterday? The one thrown out in disgrace? Carter blinked, thrown off balance. He let out a nervous chuckle. "Oh, Jason? Well, missed, Kingston. I'm afraid he's no longer a student here." Kingston's eyes darkened, his voice cutting like steel. "I know. That's why I'm here." Jason's name spread like wildfire, whispers buzzing through the crowd. Those who jeered at him now exchanged wide-eyed glances. Stunned, Mason, who'd relished Jason's downfall, shifted uneasily, his smug grin gone. What was happening? Back at home, Jason was still in bed, staring at the ceiling, the sting of yesterday's humiliation slicing deeper with every replay in his mind. His parents' comforting words had done little to dull the ache he'd worked so hard for Westbridge, only to be discarded like he was nothing. Then, a earth-shaking roar jolted him upright, the house trembling from the vibrations. A helicopter? In their tiny town? His heart raced as he bolted out of bed, throwing on a shirt and racing outside. His father stood at the door, pale with confusion, and Jason's breath caught at the sight before him. Parked right outside their humble farmhouse was that same sleek helicopter, and stepping out, with a presence that could silence storms, was Samuel Kingston himself. Jason's mother clutched her husband's arm, her voice a shocked whisper. That's Samuel Kingston. Can you believe it?" Jason could barely catch his breath as Samuel Kingston's piercing gaze locked onto his, the billionaire taking a bold step forward. Was this really happening? Jason felt like a statue, rooted to the spot as Kingston approached, his overwhelming presence filling the air like a storm about to break. Every movement was precise, controlled, his polished shoes crunching against the gravel of their humble farmhouse driveway, each step echoing in Jason's ears, alongside his thundering heartbeat. His parents stood beside him, their faces a whirlwind of awe and confusion. Could they believe their eyes? "You are Jason Miller," Kingston declared, his voice booming with unshakable authority. It wasn't a question. It was as if he knew every detail of Jason's life already. Jason swallowed hard, his throat dry as he managed a shaky, "Yes, sir." Kingston's sharp eyes studied him, then swept over the modest farmhouse, the sprawling fields, and the rusty old truck parked by the barn. What was he thinking? To everyone's shock, he extended a hand, the gesture so unexpected, it felt like the world tilted. "Your father's Benjamin Miller," Kingston said, turning slightly to Jason's dad. "We worked together years ago, didn't we?" Jason's father hesitated, his eyes wide, before grasping Kingston's hand. "Yes, sir," he replied, voice tinged with disbelief. "I worked on one of your early agricultural projects back when I was young." Kingston gave a curt nod, his gaze steady. "And from what I hear, your son was expelled from Westbridge Academy yesterday." Jason's stomach plummeted, the sting of that humiliation crashing back like a tidal wave. Expelled? Thrown out like he was nothing just for being a farmer's son? He looked away, jaw clenched, the shame burning hot. "Yes," he mumbled, barely audible. Kingston's face remained unreadable, but his voice cut through the silence. "Tell me what happened." Jason froze, unsure, but his father's reassuring nod gave him courage. Taking a deep breath, he spilled it all. Principal Whitmore's cruel, unfair decision, Mason and his cronies' vicious taunts, the way he'd been dismissed as if he didn't belong. How could they treat him like that? By the time he finished, his fists were clenched so tight, his nails dug into his palms. A heavy silence hung in the air. Kingston turned to a tall, sharp-dressed assistant behind him. "I want a full report on Westbridge Academy's board and administrative history now." The assistant nodded, fingers flying across a tablet. Kingston's intense gaze swung back to Jason. "I don't tolerate injustice. Your father was one of the hardest working men I've ever known. And if you've got even half his grit, Westbridge made a colossal mistake." Jason's father's eyes widened. "Sir, I'm grateful you came, but..." Kingston raised a hand, silencing him. "This isn't about gratitude, Benjamin. It's about justice." He turned to Jason, his voice firm. "Get in the helicopter." Jason's breath caught weight. "What?" "You're coming with me," Kingston said, unwavering. "We've got unfinished business at Westbridge Academy." Jason's mother stepped forward, worry etched on her face. "Sir, what are you planning?" she asked, voice trembling. Kingston's expression softened, but his resolve was ironclad. "I'm ensuring your son gets the future he deserves." Jason exchanged a stunned glance with his parents. Just yesterday, he'd lost everything, humiliated and cast aside. Now, one of the most powerful men in the country stood in their driveway, beckoning him to a billionaire's helicopter. It was insane. Jason took a shaky breath. This was impossible, wasn't it? Yet deep down, a spark ignited. His life was about to change forever. The roar of the helicopter blades drowned out everything as he strapped into the plush leather seat. Could this be real? Just 24 hours ago, he'd been expelled, feeling like a nobody. Now, he sat beside Samuel Kingston, a billionaire whose name held more weight than the entire school board combined. As the helicopter lifted off, Jason peered out the window, his heart twisting. His parents stood below, his mom clutching his dad's arm, their faces a mix of shock and uncertainty. Were they proud or terrified? Jason swallowed hard, his mind racing. What lay ahead? One thing was clear, this wasn't just a ride, it was a mission. Kingston sat calmly, scanning a tablet, while an assistant whispered updates through a headset. His presence was like gravity itself, every move calculated, every word heavy with purpose. Jason, After a moment, he turned to Jason. "Do you know why I'm doing this?" Jason hesitated. "Because you knew my dad?" Kingston nodded, leaning closer. "That's part of it, but there's more. I don't believe in wasting potential." He tapped his tablet, showing Jason the screen. "You've got a perfect academic record. You outscored 99% of students in the state on your exams. You're no troublemaker. You were expelled because of prejudice, not because you did anything wrong." Jason's eyes widened, a rush of pride and disbelief surging through him. He'd always worked hard, but hearing it like that, his worth laid bare, was electrifying. Kingston's voice grew fierce. "I built my empire from nothing. People like Westbridge's principal think success is only for the privileged, that they get to decide who deserves a shot. They're dead wrong." Jason's fists clenched, not in anger now, but with a burning sense of purpose. For the first time since his expulsion, he felt alive, like he could take on the world. The helicopter began its descent, and Jason's heart raced as Westbridge Academy's imposing rooftop came into view. Those stone walls, that massive entrance designed to intimidate, loomed as large as ever. Students and staff crowded outside, pointing and whispering in awe. The helicopter touched down, and Kingston unbuckled his seatbelt, stepping out with the confidence of a man who owned the ground beneath him. Jason followed, his pulse pounding. Was he ready for this? Principal Whitmore stood among the crowd, his face ghostly pale as he recognized Kingston. The billionaire didn't hesitate, striding straight toward the man who'd crushed Jason's dreams. "I assume you know who I am," Kingston said, his voice calm but razor-sharp. Whitmore stammered, "Mr. Kingston the first." Kingston cut him off. "You made a mistake, a costly one." His gaze swept over the students, teachers, and board members gathered outside. This school claims to shape the future, yet it throws away hard-working students like Jason Miller without a second thought. Whitmore tried to speak. "Sir, it's a misunderstanding." Kingston ignored him, turning to his assistant. "What's the largest donation Westbridge has ever received?" The assistant checked a file. $1 million, sir." Kingston nodded, his voice ringing across the courtyard. "I'll donate $10 million today under one condition." Silence gripped the crowd. Every eye on him, he faced Whitmore. "You will reinstate Jason Miller immediately and publicly apologize." Whitmore's face flushed crimson. "Mr. Kingston, that's highly irregular." Kingston's expression didn't waver. "You have 5 seconds to decide." Jason stood frozen, watching the most powerful man he'd ever met take charge of the institution that had tried to break him. Whitmore's lips parted, but no words came. His eyes darted between Kingston, the board members, and the students filming with their phones. The entire school held its breath. Was this real? The man who'd called Jason an embarrassment now had seconds to undo his cruelty or face a billionaire's wrath. Kingston checked his watch, his voice slicing through the tension like a blade. 4 seconds. Principal Whitmore cleared his throat, his face paling. "Mr. Kingston, I hear your concerns, but these matters need proper 3 seconds." Sweat beaded on Whitmore's brow, his eyes darting nervously. Could he feel the weight of Kingston's power crushing him? The board members shifted, squirming under the pressure of that staggering $10 million offer, a fortune Westbridge couldn't dream of losing. 2 seconds. Kingston's tone was steady, but the warning rang loud and clear. Oh, what would Whitmore do now? Whitmore sucked in a sharp breath, then forced a shaky chuckle. "Of course, we'd be honored to welcome Jason Miller back. This was all just a terrible misunderstanding." His voice quivered as he turned to the sea of students and staff, their eyes wide with shock. "I deeply regret any unfair treatment Jason may have endured. As principal, I take full responsibility for this oversight, and officially reinstate him immediately. The words sounded rehearsed, hollow, like a script read under duress. But who cared? Jason's heart raced. He'd won. Kingston didn't flinch. He let the silence stretch, torturing Whitmore with every agonizing second, making him squirm under that steely gaze. Then, with a single, curt nod, he signaled his assistant, "Send the paperwork to his office. Ensure it's processed today." Whitmore nodded frantically, wiping his sweaty forehead. Yes, of course, absolutely. Could he even believe what he'd just agreed to? As Whitmore stepped back, the students exploded into whispers, their voices buzzing like a hive. Some flashed grins at Jason. Were they actually happy for him? Others stood slack-jawed, stunned beyond words. Jason caught snippets of their murmurs. "No way, I can't believe this. He was kicked out yesterday, and now he's back. A billionaire just fought for him." Jason exhaled, his chest tight with emotion. Just 24 hours ago, he'd been humiliated, paraded through the halls like a nobody. Now, he stood tall, backed by one of the most powerful men in the country. Was this real? Kingston turned to him, his voice low but resonant. "This isn't just about coming back, Jason. It's about what's next." Jason nodded, words failing him. Kingston had saved him. But deep down, he sensed this was only the spark of something massive. The billionaire glanced at his assistant, gesturing toward the waiting helicopter. "Let's go, we've got work to do." Jason froze. "Wait, don't I have to stay here?" he blurted, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Kingston's lips curved into a slight, knowing smile. "You could, but I'm offering you something far better." Jason's stomach did a flip. "Better? What could possibly be better?" Kingston stepped closer, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. "I'm launching a scholarship program for students like you, hard workers who get overlooked. You'll be the first recipient." Jason blinked, his mind reeling. What does that even mean? Kingston's eyes gleamed with purpose. "It means you're not just crawling back to this school, you're leaping forward. I want you to train with my team, learn from the best. Education matters, but experience? That's what forges leaders. You've got potential, Jason, and I'm damn well going to make sure you unleash it." Jason's throat tightened, a surge of emotion threatening to overwhelm him. Part of him ached to stay, to shove his victory in Whitmore's face, to prove he belonged. But another part screamed the truth. This was bigger than Westbridge Academy. This was his shot to break free from everything that had ever held him back. His father's words echoed in his mind, steady and wise. "Opportunities don't wait, son. When one knocks, you fling that door wide open." Jason swallowed hard, meeting Kingston's unwavering gaze. "I'm in," he declared, his voice firm, despite the butterflies in his stomach. Taking a deep breath, he stepped toward the helicopter, the moment feeling like a dream. Less than a day ago, he'd been crushed, expelled, told he'd never amount to anything. Now, he was about to leave Westbridge with a billionaire who saw something in him no one else had. Could life really change this fast? His father stood a few feet away, watching with a steady gaze. Jason turned to him, searching for any hint of doubt, but instead, he saw something else: pride, raw and unmistakable. "You always said to seize opportunities, Dad," Jason said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is the biggest one I've ever had." His father nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "You're damn right, son. Go make something of yourself. Don't let anyone tell you what you're worth." Jason's chest tightened. He wanted to say more, to pour out his gratitude, but the deafening roar of the helicopter blades drowned out everything. Kingston's assistant motioned for him to climb aboard. He stole one last glance at the crowd, the students, the teachers, the stunned faces of those who'd mocked him. Then, with a surge of resolve, he stepped inside. Not looking back, the door slammed shut, and within seconds, the helicopter soared upward, the school shrinking below until the crowd was just a scattering of tiny dots. Was this really goodbye to Westbridge? Jason sank into his seat, his mind spinning like the blades above. Kingston sat across from him, his expression calm, unreadable. "You made the right choice," he said, his voice cutting through Jason's whirlwind of thoughts. Jason exhaled, shaky but sure. "It feels unreal." Kingston nodded, a glint of understanding in his eyes. "That feeling? It'll fade. Soon you'll know this is exactly where you belong." Jason peered out the window, the city sprawling beneath them, in a dazzling blur. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kingston's smile was slight but electric. "To your future." They touched down on the rooftop of a towering skyscraper in the city's heart, and Jason's breath caught as he stepped out. The building was a sleek, modern marvel, its massive logo gleaming in the sunlight. Kingston Enterprises. Was this his new world? Kingston led him through security checkpoints into a high-tech office, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing a jaw-dropping city skyline. Jason's eyes widened. He'd never seen anything so grand. "You're going to learn everything here," Kingston said, his voice brimming with conviction. "Business, leadership, innovation. You're not just a student anymore. Jason, you're an apprentice." Jason's heart pounded. "Why me?" he asked, the question bursting out before he could stop it. Kingston studied him, his gaze piercing yet warm. "Because you remind me of myself. I was once the kid no one believed in, but someone gave me a chance. Now, it's my turn to pay it forward." Jason's throat closed up, memories flooding back the grueling days on the farm, the struggles, the sneers of those who'd underestimated him. And now, here he was, standing in the office of one of the world's most powerful men. Kingston placed a firm hand on his shoulder, his voice steady and sure. "This is just the beginning, Jason. You're going to prove them all wrong." Jason nodded, a fire igniting in his chest. For the first time, he didn't just dream of a better future, he knew it was coming, and nothing could stop him now.